Hi, it's Christina with the Sisyphean Journal, and today I'm responding to the news as reported on NBC. Supreme Court allows government to enforce abortion pill rule. And I want you to pay attention to what is not said as much as you do to anything else. Okay, so let's get to it, shall we? So the Supreme Court on Tuesday lifted a nationwide injunction that would have prevented the Trump administration from enforcing a rule to regulate a pill commonly used in medication abortions, allowing the rule to be enforced. Well, that was not exactly the most clear and concise sentence that has ever been written in the English language, but we'll just let that be. Since 2000, the Food and Drug Administration said mifeprex, a drug used during the first 10 weeks of pregnancy, must be given to patients by healthcare professionals in clinics, hospitals, or doctors' offices. A patient must sign a form acknowledging that she has been counseled about the drug's possible risks. The patient can take the pill anytime after she received it and does not have to swallow it in the presence of a healthcare professional. So you have to provide the patient with informed consent, and the patient has to acknowledge the informed consent. I'm not quite sure why this is considered some heinous imposition on women's right to choose abortion. A group of doctors led by the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists sued to relax the restrictions during the COVID-19 pandemic. Medical offices and clinics have either closed or restricted appointments, they said, requiring pregnant women to make in-person visits exposes them to a heightened risk of infection. Funny how they want to single out abortion. I haven't noticed them getting bent out of shape about things like, I think it was Steven Crowder interviewed her, is a plastic surgeon in California who specialized in teaming up with oncologists to do reconstructive surgery while the woman is on the operating table for her mastectomy. And California said, no, you can't spend that extra 45 minutes to do reconstructive surgery so that she doesn't walk out of that operating room absolutely mutilated. No, that'll increase the risk of COVID. Actually caring about patients ain't on the agenda. It hasn't been. And it said in person, it doesn't mean that they can't have plexiglass in between. It doesn't mean that they can't take any kind of precautions. It just means you can't mail it to her. U.S. District Judge Theodore Chung of Maryland agreed, ruling in July that keeping the FDA rule during the pandemic would place a substantial obstacle in the path of women seeking a medication abortion, and that the delay may preclude a medication abortion and thus may necessitate more invasive procedures. Instead, he said, the pills could be sent by mail. Again, if this is a healthcare facility, is there any particular reason that they can't have infection control procedures in place? You know, if the woman is at such high risk of COVID that she can't go down to Planned Parenthood to pick up her abortion pills, she's not healthy enough to be having sex and getting pregnant in the first place. Okay? Women of reproductive age that are healthy enough to be getting pregnant, itty bitty risk of COVID. Okay? So, Chief Justice John Roberts said it was not a case about whether the rule imposed an undue burden on a woman's right to seek an abortion. Notice that the woman only has a right to seek an abortion. She doesn't have any freaking right to avoid one. I've covered that elsewhere. The pro-choice movement has zero problem with women being bullied and lied to and coerced into unwanted abortions. They will never say word one against it. They do this, they pretend it doesn't happen. They get their knickers all in a twist and have huge rallies and raise all kinds of hell that pro-life pregnancy centers might be saying things that annoy pro-abortion women. But the idea of women being coerced, bullied, or lied to, big fat hairy deal. The baby's dead, everything's fine. Instead, he said it was about a lower court's authority to block the rule during the pandemic. The court owes a significant deference to the politically accountable branches with the background to assess public health. Writing for herself and Justice Elena Kagan, Justice Sonia Sotomayor said the majority of women seeking abortion care during the first 10 weeks of pregnancy rely on the medication at issue. The FDA's policy imposes an unnecessary, unjustifiable, irrational, and undue burden on a woman seeking abortion during the current pandemic. Lord have mercy. How about if they applied that same standard to things like, say, earning a living, looking after your elderly parents? You're not allowed to go into their house in some areas. But notice this whole coverage. What are they leaving out? Mailing the pill means that somebody other than the woman can get hold of these pills. Every so often you'll see a story about some guy who does not agree with the woman's decision to have the baby, and he orders abortion pills online and slips them in her drink and kills the baby against her wishes. It's not even mentioned. It's not even in the radar. And do you know why it's not even on the radar? Because for the abortion rights movement, they always side with whatever party wants the baby dead. And this started with the Junior and Mary Sue Davis frozen embryos case. Mary Sue Davis was like, okay, I'm not going to force my soon-to-be ex-husband to become a father against his will. We will make the embryos available for infertile couples who wish to use them to have them implanted. It's now called snowflake adoption. And Junior Davis is like, oh, hell no, yeah, he is forcing me to become a father against my will. Never mind that he went to a whole lot of trouble and expense to create those embryos. Abortion rights organizations, did they side with Mary Sue Davis, who was crying and pleading for the lives of these embryos that she saw as her children? And supposedly it's all about the woman, and it's all about what the woman believes, and it's all about the woman wants, and all about her making the choice. And Mary Sue Davis is crying and pleading, please let us make them available for snowflake adoption. And the pro-choice, pro-woman groups are like, no, Junior Davis wants them dead, and that's that. So I don't think this is about women's access to reproductive choice. I think it's anything that stands between an embryo and getting snuffed is something they can't stand.